terminology.
No, it's called dude. No,
Mm.
not.
Oh, cod?
Cod.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about the cod.
It's a for
Good fish. I'm more of a Super Mario Brothers kind of guy.
yes, but
Yeah.
Mario.
Super Mario or the OG?
It's Mario. This is urgency.
Yeah.
We are, I think, up on everything now.
Wow, we're up. All right.
Morning.
Morning, everybody. Welcome. Episode 59.
59.
Sorry we delayed today. We didn't last week. We didn't realize it was going to be 4th of July, and then
In the back of my head, I knew there was something, and then it didn't
So hopefully,
come through.
hopefully you had a nice day off yesterday. If you didn't, hopefully your work didn't suck too bad. And we had a good weekend. I think it was nice. So as always, this is a question and answer session. Nate and I are happy to weigh in on any of your questions or controversial topics, long-standing feuds, and any questions about 034 Motorsport products and services. Certainly any of Nate and I, anything you'd like to know of Nate and I, we're always happy to talk about. And again, weighing in on general automotive opinions.
Usually automotive.
Yeah. Sometimes we give relationship advice or cooking tips.
Sure, speaker builder could slip in there.
There's been some speaker talk. So type in your questions, send them over, and we have a team here who's feeding your questions into our phones so we can read them.
Yep.
I'm not on TikTok right now, so sometimes people get angry on YouTube. They come and they say, "They're so rude that you're on your phone while you're on the doing the live chat."
Distracted while we're talking.
It's like, seriously, like, why would we do this and then be on our phones? So no, the phones are part of the system that we use to answer the questions.
Yep.
We tried extra sensory perception, but it wasn't very reliable. So
You were getting some very strange answers.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's hop into the first question. What topics are currently in development for the 8S TTRS? Good question. So we have our camber caster strut mounts. So you may have heard of our camber mounts, which are a fixed camber top strut mount. We have now made a new version that not only moves the strut inboard but back. And so we've sort of like split the difference between caster and camber. You get a little less camber, but a quote unquote a lot more caster, the most you could get by relocating the strut top. This product should be released in the next few months. It's in manufacturing currently. It's gone through testing and validation and all that. I'm not sure if we'll keep both versions for the future. So we will keep both versions, and then we will make a decision if one of them doesn't sell. We will probably taper that one off. But we're very excited about the camera caster. We should have done it like this originally. It'll be fun to see Super Pro and whoever else knock us off because again, this is nothing
long on the first one.
Nothing that exists on the market currently, and it's frankly a really good idea. You don't have to adjust, and it uses an OEM style density strut, rubber strut mount, so the end can rattle and things like that over time. They need to be maintained. We're also working on the fuel surge tank, which will be a bolt-in, drop-in affair for the TTRS. There are some other products we're working on.
Some calibration work, software stuff.
Yeah, we're adding some of our features from our B8 tuning to the DAZA, which is very exciting. We have a engine catch can product coming out. It's currently in testing and validation. And it's the same look and feel as our DSG catch can. It goes on the other side, similarly shaped. So when you have both of them in there, it looks like a system visually. And so yeah, and the calibration work is very exciting, especially some of the advanced launch control stuff that we're working on. So, anyways, yeah, we're nowhere near done with that platform yet.
All kinds of ETA requests here.
Kick on the AC. Kick that down a couple times. All right. Let's see. Will you make an upgraded PCV delete for the B8 S4? We've talked about it. We haven't really committed to doing it as of yet. A lot because we don't hear too many complaints about it. But I don't know. Have you
The
heard?
main complaint is failures. Factory ones fail fairly regularly.
Yeah. Like how often though?
Every 60 to 100,000.
I mean, yeah, that's kind of
That's pretty rare. Yeah. Some of the other ones we've done, like they literally last 10,000 miles. You know, like once a year you're changing it.
Yeah.
But we'll continue to evaluate that application. There's just so much attention on the B8 for us, and a lot of it's related to increasing the power and acceleration. And so we focused our efforts on that. We're working on the auxiliary fueling solutions. So yeah, but we'll keep that in mind. We'll keep thinking about it. Any progress on B9 A4Q5 ECU TCU tuning? I'll say
yes.
yeah.
Hold on.
What?
B9. I'm sorry.
B9.
I was thinking this is the B8
Yeah,
question.
A4.
B9. A little bit. It's in our roadmap. It's not at the top of the list right now. Unfortunately, you know, we've got
It's on the
resources
list.
where
Yeah.
we've got resources to prioritize.
And hasn't been forgotten about or anything.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not something that I'm like working on daily right now. So I don't have a good time frame to give.
Yeah. Probably not this summer or this fall, but we definitely want to have something out in the next year for that application. The S4 application has been extremely popular, and so we've kind of put all our resources towards that, and we're still working on B8 stuff and DAZA stuff. And then we have this B8 A4 tune coming out soon. Which is
That's
exciting.
going to be dropping soon.
Yeah. So there's lots going on in tuning and calibration, but I wish we had the B9A4 done.
Oh yeah,
it's not. Yeah. Let's see. Are there any negatives to additional brake cooling ducts? No, other than just trying to fit them.
Yeah, fitment's
That's
a nightmare.
really the big
always
issue
on these all-wheel drive cars or front-wheel drive cars.
The last thing you want is brake ducts getting in the way of your turning or suspension function.
The biggest problem is usually if it's actually a ducted setup, it's not rubbing on brake lines or hitting axles or getting compressed in the suspension components.
Yeah, so the problem is they just don't usually fit. Certainly not with like fabrication techniques that are accessible to the home builder. Certainly if you have engineering capabilities and you can injection mold and create like complex duct shapes that integrate into the car, then you can do more. Typically Audis need them. They all need them.
Yeah.
I think the R8 does well without them. With really hard track driving and race pads, the R8 seems to be okay. But for example, like the sedans, there's only so much you can do with any of the Audi sedans before the airflow just becomes an issue. I mean, the heat has to go somewhere. And if it doesn't go somewhere, then it stays and boils your fluid and melts your pads and overheats everything. So, but that's on really, really hard extreme use. But I think for a race car, it would be pretty important to figure out a brake duct setup. So some of the best ones I've seen on race cars is they're built into the front splitter. So once you add a front splitter, you lower the front of the car and you open up an envelope of space to add brake ducting. So you do a splitter, and then you have like an air dam around the top of the splitter, which seals the area between the splitter and the lower bumper. And in that, you put ducts. And then you can actually mold into the splitter the pathways for the brake ducts. And then on the end of the splitter, you put some tube connections and you run some of that nice flexible silicone wire reinforced hose, which is designed, it's like ducting hose. And that's some of the best setups. But on a street car, it's pretty tough to do. It's tough to find that room without having everything stick out from the bottom of the car. Opinion on selling a Stage 2 B8 B8.5 S4 for a B9 S4 and E85. I'll give you my opinion. I don't know what you think, Nate.
Well, let's hear yours first, and then
I think the power potential for B9 will eclipse B8 easily.
Yeah.
The 3.0T is already, from a peak power and torque standpoint, more potent. And we'll start to see routinely 700-800 horsepower B9 S4s. We'll have to see how the engines hold up to that kind of power. But if the stock rods hold up, it'll be very common to see an 800 horsepower B9 S4. The B8, there's just no easy way to get there. The B8 has some great advantages. So I'm not saying it's a home run slam dunk. Definitely do it. The B9 is turbocharged. It has turbo lag. You're not going to have the same type of power delivery, but B9s will end up going much, much faster than B8s just because of the sheer power they'll produce, thanks to the turbocharging.
yeah, and well, depending on the application for sure, but or the type of
Yeah.
how you're measuring them. But yeah, I mean, it's a tough one. I personally really like the way the B8s drive.
It would be better if you disagree with me. So
I do
take the opposite
yeah.
position.
I
entertaining.
from a driving standpoint, I prefer B8
Yeah.
8.5 style better.
The power
it's just instant power, instant. The car feels a lot more nimble. And it can be, steered with a throttle a lot easier than the B9, because the B9 you've got that transient turbo, effect. You've got to
and
compensate.
bigger, more powerful turbos are going to be laggier.
Yeah.
No matter what people online say or the static dyno pulse says, it's laggier.
Yeah, the B8, mid corner, you can just give it a quick stat of the throttle to get the tail to kick out. And really, you have a lot of cornering control with the B8 on track. The B9, it's there, but you've really got to kind of plan ahead at the beginning of your turn and really, hope it all lines up exactly when you want, all your power to come up.
Yeah. I mean, and I agree with everything you said. I'll qualify mine as if straight line acceleration and power, especially drag racing, is a priority, then I think the B9 will.
I think that's going to
be a whole new level. But yeah, if you could do a lot of damage on track with a 550 horsepower B8 S4.
Oh, hell yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
that's all the power you need, and that's a very fast car. Once you get the chassis set up, it's going to eat up the track. So
they're very similar underneath. I mean, from a chassis and
suspension is similar.
They're very similar.
Yep.
So now, if you're talking like you've got like hours a day you're commuting, or you do a lot of long road trips, B9 hands down.
Do the seat massager
with the seat massager especially,
and the Bluetooth integration. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, you're just in the digital dash, you're just not going to get.
It's a much nicer cockpit.
It is
to sit in for any length of time.
It feels like a newer, nicer car. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the tuning market responds. Now that like we're involved in B9 and we're releasing tunes, I think everyone can expect performance to really jump forward, and it'll be interesting to see because there's still a lot of B8 guys trying to go fast too, and we're still selling.
We're still
B8
pushing, and we're still developing on B8 stuff too. So we've got a couple of they're both really potent platforms.
Yeah. Timeline for DQ381 TCU tune.
It's a good one. I don't have a definite timeline. I mean, it's available in beta form. In that the tune's basically complete. We just have a couple of like really minor refinements that we're working on.
Is this the F8?
No, this is a 7-speed DSG.
For the Golf R,
like the late Golf Rs and GTIs.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
But
we have one, right?
Oh yeah, no, it's up on the server already. It's and it's kind of waiting on a couple of other tweaks we're doing with the TTRS or the DAZA DQ500.
Sure.
They're very similar. We were in the midst of working on some changes with that, and the car ended up being down for some other development work. So it's all back up and running now. So we should have some more stuff in the pipeline soon.
Some questions coming in about our new X-Clear product. So I'll just talk about this for a minute and answer some of the questions. This is a new product we released on Friday, and we currently have B8 and B9 applications available. So there's a underbody brace towards the back of basically under the rear seat area, and it goes across the tunnel where the exhaust and drive shafts sit, and it is a brace because it's secured with 10 millimeter bolts into a very substantial part of the chassis. and it connects the two sides of the car together. The stock piece is a thin, relatively thin sheet metal stamping with like a little air deflector on the back of it, presumably to create some kind of air turbulence to get air to the rear diff, to flow across the rear diff. So there's nothing really wrong with the stock one, but we were under there and we were like, you know what, it would be cool to make this. This is definitely more rigid than the stock one, but we're not here to say like it's going to transform the car's handling.
Yeah.
Although it definitely won't hurt. But what the main benefit is we added all this clearance in here. So there's 8 millimeters more clearance over the factory unit. And that would allow up to a 1/2 inch bigger diameter exhaust. For anyone that's looking to do kind of a bigger exhaust through that area. It also gives you extra clearance for the exhaust. So even if you have an aftermarket one that's bigger, that they won't have the chance to rattle. I've actually seen people space the stock one down with washers. I've even seen people remove it. So we're going to have a number of additional applications. Now, there was some confusion about the name. It's called X-Clear, not because we use clear aluminum.
Still a Star Trek thing.
The X-Clear stands for extra clearance. And it's just kind of a dumb, silly name that we came up with. But we wanted to be upfront and above board on this is for clearance. It's also sexy and cool. And it's not very expensive, and you can install it and have fun doing that. So those are available now. Very popular. We have lots of them in stock, but we've been selling them quite well. Yeah, and we were able to keep the air deflector right here, and it's built in, and it's the same shape and profile as the OEM one. So we're not removing that. There is actually another one on the market that doesn't have that, and it has a lot less clearance than this. So, we tried to keep all the features and functionality in there while making a cool and fun piece to put on your car. And, the direction some of these cars are going, you can put a bigger, beefier exhaust in there, and you'll definitely benefit from that. Someone asks, does your X-Clear have any benefit other than allowing clearance for larger exhaust? Please compare the weight of the X-Clear tunnel brakes versus stock. Okay, so I think I addressed the benefits.
Yeah.
The weight it's definitely heavier, but I mean we're talking ounces here.
Yeah, it's scalloped out quite a bit. It's not.
It is.
There's brick of aluminum.
There's scalloping here, and this is made from aluminum. This aluminum. The stock one is steel, so the material is about half the weight as factory. It's about 2 to 3 times thicker, so it's maybe 30% heavier than the stock unit or something. Weight's not an issue at all. Can you make an X-Clear for the C7A6, or is there a shared fitment with the B8? I don't think there's shared fitments, but maybe we can write that down.
Yeah, we can validate that with engineering, but usually they've gone through all.
We're planning on releasing a whole line of these products for as many applications as we can. I remember the C4S4 had one of these, and everyone would take it off. There's the Stromlung exhaust, which was kind of the only option, and obviously the most popular, required you to take it off because it just hung lower and interfered with that, and it would rattle on that cross piece.
Yep.
When can we expect B9 RS5 tuning? What is the RS5 E85 capability looking like? Will you be releasing an upgraded high-pressure fuel pump? APR ones keep failing. I saw you posted a silver RS5 on your social media. Well, this guy's paying attention.
That's a conglomeration of questions, I think.
Yeah. Well, if it's one person,
or
you're very,
one guy
very
right on the ball.
So our goal is to release B9 RS5 in August of this year. Just preliminary. Please don't hound us. We're working on it.
Yep.
It's currently one of our calibrators is working on that just about full time. Our goal is to release an E85 version, but we won't say.
Yeah, we're not going to commit to it until we're done testing.
Yeah. We are planning on bringing a high pressure fuel pump option to the market that doesn't fail. We have been noticing all the failures of these other ones. Part of the problem is those are, I believe, I know they were at one point. I don't know if they still are, but many of the failures are a purposed Autotech piston in this new application. So something's going on where they're failing. And so we are doing a kind of a ground up clean sheet upgrade for the B9. We're still pretty, I mean, that's not a simple product to make. This is aerospace. We're using an aerospace supplier to manufacture these for us. And we still have a lot of testing and stuff to do. So we'll release stage 1 with whatever fuel options are available for the stock fuel pump. And then we will continue to evolve and develop that. But I think, stage 1 should see some substantial gains, as we saw in the B9 S4. And yes, we did acquire a B9 RS5 in-house as of last week.
It is silver.
It's silver. It's a really nice car. I've driven them a few times, and we've obviously done a lot of product development on RS5s, but we finally now have one in-house. We have a lot of customers local customers that will, they'll come in, we'll scan their car, and we'll give them free parts and, high fives and stuff like that. But, when you're doing a full ECU calibration, you need the car. So, we'll keep you guys posted. I'm very excited. Just given how fast it is stock, it's going to be ridiculous. I mean, I'm just imagining that car with another, 75, 80 horsepower and torque. It's going to be really fun. And then with the 85, even if it's a blend, it's going to freaking boogie.
Yep.
When will your stage 1 tuning be CARB legal for Mk7 GTI? I mean,
I'm following up with them this week.
Yeah.
It's been a while now. Everything's been signed off. It was just in the paperwork phase. So
it is approved.
Yeah.
So if you got pulled over or something, we would certainly vouch for you. We could send you initial confirmations we've gotten from CARB. We have an EO number, don't we?
No,
not yet.
That's what
okay.
we're waiting on.
So we're waiting for them to issue the EO number, and once we have that, it'll be on a sticker on all the products that are legal.
Yeah.
But you can, if you buy it now, you can drive it knowing that it is gone through the CARB testing process and it's going through the bureaucratic steps. But it is a clean running file that does not pollute any more than the factory OEM file. But gives you a lot more power. So, I want an intake to go along with my B9 3.0 T tune, but your carbon fiber version is too expensive. Will you be releasing a P34? Will it be CARB? Yes. So we are about a week away from releasing our P34 for the B9 S4 3.0 T and variants. It will be cheaper. It's not CARB legal yet. But there's no reason it won't pass CARB, and so we're going through that process right now. Intakes in general don't create more pollution.
Particularly, I mean, just it's a non-metered air. It's
especially
map-based
non-MAF cars. It's just air flowing through a filter, going through a pipe. So it's not like removing your CAD or messing with the O2 sensor readings or things like that. So. No one will ever be able to prove that your intake polluted the air at all. Actually, the biggest concern is the off-gassing of the materials the intake is made.
That was a fun one. We had to like the biggest hang-up right now with getting some of this done is like what is the exact formulation of the silicone and the inner liner of the silicone and the materials that are used to make the actual tubes.
Yeah, it's like
nothing to do with what the engine's
It's like, we made
air metering ability is.
We made our intake from sublimated carbon dioxide and methane, or something. I don't know, like how much off-gassing could a hose do, but that's the biggest concern with intakes, literally.
That was like question number one.
Now, to Nate's point, if there's a MAF involved and your intake screws up the airflow through the MAF, then that will throw off your tuning, and then now you are in a smog. Potentially a smog polluting situation where,
although interestingly, there's a number of intakes on the market that are certified that don't work well with MAF-based cars.
Yeah, don't even get me started on that. Yeah. All right. Is there any concern with B9 3.0 T Stage 1 E85 torque values being greater than The ZF8 rated torque limits rated at only 405 foot-pounds.
Those limits are.
This is a limit where
they've always said that's their standard. So it's like it's a HP 55, so it'd be normally a 550 Newton meter rated transmission. But I mean, if you're going to go by those numbers, then the engine's only rated for whatever the factory is. There's only so much you can go by based on the number of the published for the particular part.
So when you see ratings like that, out in the world, this is, imagine your ZF and you created a transmission, and literally like Audi's standard for for example, a company like Audi, their standard is out of 1 million cars there can be less than like 2 failures. I mean that's their standard. So when ZF comes out and says this is rated for X amount of power, that's the standard they're going for. It's an extremely stringent standard. It's basically the highest standard you can go by, where ZF is saying if you want to never have a failure, which 2 or 3 out of 1 million is basically never, then you cannot exceed this amount of torque. Now, we don't know what the failure rate goes to at 600 foot-pounds, which is what we've pushed it to. We know that in our testing, which has been extensive, that there's been no issues.
Yep.
We now have hundreds and hundreds of customers running it. There's been no issues. So we kind of take that OEM rating with a grain of salt, and we just go test it ourselves.
Yeah.
And we determine from an aftermarket point of view what can we push to.
And it goes all the way back, like the DQ380. That's only rated for 250 Newton meters,
which is ridiculous, because they can take like 500-600.
Yeah, easily.
Yeah,
I mean, we push more than that through them, regularly. So yeah, again, it's.
Now we do have some data points. We've heard of a number of RS6 failures.
Oh, on the 4-liter stuff.
On the 4.0 T, which we're now talking probably 1,000 foot-pounds of torque or more. And from the 4.0 T, it's a bigger, broader torque peak than even a 3.0 T could produce. So we're not concerned about it. And
we haven't had any reason to be, to question it at this point.
And that's a very strong transmission. If you look at the ZF8 and all the applications it's being used in, it's a tough transmission. So, and it's why Audi went to it, because they wanted a stronger transmission. And this is kind of similar to how the B8 3.0 T supercharger. What's the RPM it's rated to?
That's a good question. Honestly, that one, everybody keeps publishing that like 23,000 or something RPM, but that's honestly for these smaller. Like that's the maximum RPM of that given series of charger, not the exact one that's in the Audi. Yeah. But it's maybe 20-some thousand. It's.
But people are running them at what, like 25?
Well over that.
Yeah. So I mean, there's the standard from the OEM 0.01% failure, level of significance, and then there's what's acceptable in the aftermarket. And when you tune your car and you increase the power, you're pushing the risks of everything. I mean, you're pushing the risks of going faster. You could crash because you end up going a lot faster than than you can control the car. And this is really common, where someone takes a factory vehicle and doubles the horsepower and they crash it really soon after. I was talking to someone who sells. Someone who is involved with someone who sells Lamborghinis, and they were this anecdotal, but they were saying something like 30% of all the cars they sell get totaled within the first month, because it's some guy with a lot of money who has no idea how to control a 600 horsepower supercar, and they crash it. I sold my 996 Turbo to someone on the East Coast, and they crashed it like after like a month. Yeah. And that was a really fast car. It was a lot to handle. I had no trouble handling it, but they crashed it pretty quickly. So, what are some upcoming products and tuning for the B9 S4? Well, we have.
We spoke about some of them already. Obviously, we got the the X-Clear.
X-Clear just came out.
The fuel pump stuff we're working on, the calibration, and
the high pressure fuel pump.
High pressure fuel pump we're working on, stage 2 calibrations, and then hybrid turbo stuff is coming.
Yeah, and then stage 3 hybrid turbos, a pure turbo 750, TTE 710, and the pure 750. Yes, we have our lightweight 2-piece brake rotors all around, front and rear. We're working on a upgraded front mount intercooler.
Yep.
For that, which they really need it.
That's most of it.
Oh, motor mounts, density motor mounts. Lower control arms, density lower control arms.
Yep. Our full TCU tune will be coming. So
yeah, our stage. What are we going to call it? Stage 1 TCU.
Yeah, it'll be stage 1 initially.
Toe arm as well, I believe.
Oh yeah, and a rear toe link. So we'll be offering a full camber toe solution for that car. Ooh, someone's asking about our philosophy. I still love talking about that. What is your philosophy when creating an ECU TCU tune? For example, people claim your tunes are calibrated for safety rather than max power. Bullshit. Do you agree with that narrative? Does this also mean your tune is leaving significant power on the table? All right, well, let me just start from the qualitative side, and then you can address that as well. But so we do prioritize safety and performance. You can actually do both. So I would question anyone who develops or engineers a product with only one outcome in mind is going to be a flawed outcome. So if we had to choose, yes, we would choose safety over power, because who wants to freaking blow up their motor? You want to spend $900 on ECU calibration and blow up your motor?
Yeah.
No, nobody wants to do that.
And to be fair, if your motor's not working, your power is 0. So that's, you haven't tuned for power. You've tuned for 0.
There is no choice from our perspective. Is we have to achieve maximum power that's also safe and reliable.
Yeah, maximum capable power, basically.
Yeah. So there's this. I don't know. You know how everything's become polarized. Like, you can either have Apple or Android. You can either like McDonald's or Burger King. You can either like Coke or Pepsi. I don't know. Like, you know. And so out in the world, what makes sense to people are these polarized positions. And so I think there's a lot of people out there that probably can't accept that we prioritize safety and power at the same time. Maybe they don't know how to reconcile that, but that's absolutely what we do. So we're going to push the limits of what's safe to the maximum possible performance. That's where our product becomes realized when we get to that point. And I mean, Nate can verify. He and the calibration team will come forward and be like, okay, we think this tune's done, and me and the marketing are like, all right, let's see the numbers. And we're just like, where's the beef, you know? And
everybody wants more.
And so we push them to produce more, because when we go out into the marketplace, the last thing we want is to sell a safe product with low performance. I mean, that's not a position for us. And if you compare our power numbers for example, our B9 3.0T, they compare favorably to everything else out there. In fact, our torque numbers are much higher because of the additional time and energy we spent to optimize it. And it's still safe, probably safer than the other tunes on the market that cut off the TCU communicating to the ECU. So
there's that, and there's we maintain or improve all of the the thermal thresholds in there, and put a pretty big effort on setting these calibrations up to account for as many conditions as possible. So there's a number of ways we could make it faster if the air temps got too hot, or make a little more power if the air temps got too hot and just ignored or softened those maps. But instead it's a better idea to go the opposite way and preemptively deal with those conditions and keep everything running as optimally as you can in a safe manner.
Yeah, I mean, imagine you want to go on a bungee jumping tour event, and there's two different companies, and the one company says, we will give you the most exciting experience you can have, and we guarantee you won't die. It's very safe. No one's ever died bungee jumping with us. And you go over to the other guys, and they're like, ours will be so much more fun than theirs. 7 people died last year. the people that didn't die, God, they had the best time, you know? So I don't know which one you would choose, but we aspire to be like the first one where you're like, you're going to have a great time and it's also going to be safe. And we will push it to the very limit. Your head will go 1 foot from the rocks at the bottom, but your head will never hit the rocks because we know we've tested it and we have a track record, you know, to show that we don't kill people when you go bungee jumping with us. And to Nate's point, yeah, as you start dialing back those safety features and those safety margins, could you get a little bit extra power when the air temps go above a certain point, or when the ambient air is a certain point, or when you're getting a certain amount of detonation? Yeah, you could go a little bit faster, but you could also blow up your motor. So for us, there's no choice. We prioritize both. That's our philosophy.
Yeah.
Let's
say that top question right there.
Does 034 do any Hail Mary tunes? I used to. When we would go do events and stuff at magazine shootouts, you know.
Oh yeah, on the standalone stuff.
I would get the laptop
it's a one-off.
Add 3 more degrees of timing, and you know, to win the dyno shootout or whatever it took. But no, we don't really do Hail Mary tunes for customers. I don't even know what that.
Well, and that was all pre. That was literally just standalone days. I mean,
that was standalone.
Yeah, that was none of our. I mean, all of our events we've done since the, you know, for all the OEM flash stuff, it's been off the shelf files, you know, that we compete with.
Yeah,
and I mean, if we're going to do a Hail Mary tune, we'd do it on our own cars we're on track with. But no, we're out there on production stuff.
Yeah, and you have to make really smart choices because, you know, in football, a Hail Mary passes. The guy's at the end of the field, the clock's running out, and you just throw the ball as hard as you can because, frankly, you have nothing to lose. And I don't know what kind of situation, you know, that would equal in the automotive sense. But maybe if you're
I think that's literally like racing, the motor might stay together for this dyno pole. Let's go for it.
I mean, I could see like it's the last lap of the race and it's the championship, and there's a little switch under the dash, and when you flip it, it's the Hail Mary tune. It gives you an extra 6 degrees of timing and more boost, and the rods literally come out. The floorboard falls out. The manifold gets endangered, and you literally like go over the finish line, and rods are spilling out onto the racetrack.
Well, I mean, it's like the James Bond effect. Yeah. You get the oil slick screen behind you.
Yeah, that would be probably the best Hail Mary situation I can think of.
Yeah. Only time you'd really maybe want something like that.
But usually, what happens is someone thinks they're going to Hail Mary something with tuning, and they turn up boost, which just produces more hot air and the car actually goes slower, or they add more timing, which just results in detonation and they blow the head gasket. They lean it out and they, you know, melt a hole in their piston.
I mean, there shouldn't be you shouldn't be able to make a Hail Mary file that all of a sudden makes a ton more power and works. Like, if that power is there, you know, kind of failed at your job, I guess.
If there's really that much performance left in the tune, then you should a safe performance that's, you know, functional, then you should have realized it sooner.
Give me the moon tune. It's like, I want a tune where cylinders 2 and 4 will explode Mars. Explore Mars. Sorry.
You know, one of the best things I've seen in movies is you just start shifting more and faster.
Dude, you need
and you just keep accelerating.
Speed. I mean, Fast and Furious 9's coming out. I can only imagine just.
Well, there's that one Fast and Furious. Paul Walker shifts into like 40th gear.
Yeah,
and he's like doing 120.
Well, and then like I guess the Hail Mary in those too is they actually push the accelerator all the way down. Oh, we see like then it goes like, oh, we're actually racing now, so we're gonna push the gas further.
I know there should be like a perforated floorboard behind the pedal, and if you can just put the pedal through the floor, and you're like 130%.
Yeah,
you know, load. I don't know. I wouldn't buy into the whole Hail Mary thing. I mean, I think if you go into the professional calibration world, if you go to Grand Am races and you walk around the pits and you see the guys with their laptops reprogramming Motex and stuff, there's no one's Hail Marying anything. I mean, in racing you really can't because
a lot of it's sanctioned, but I mean, it's sanctioned. And in racing, an active like full race series, you're always refining and updating. I mean, you know, the F1 motors blow up all the time because they're pushing the edge, but it's not like a, you know, it's all very calculated. It's not a Hail Mary.
I think you know where a Hail Mary is appropriate in tuning is you have a certain tune and you know it will last X amount of time, you know,
right.
And if you want to greatly reduce the time and stress on that motor, which could involve running more boost, revving it higher, adding more timing, but like if you do that, your motor is going to go, let's say we're talking about racing, a typical racing motor will last 50 hours and you're going to reduce the life to 3 hours. That's a Hail Mary.
And that's something we actually talked about with the Audi engineers in the VLN car, the TTRS, because it was designed to do 24 hours at the Nürburgring.
Yeah.
They were actually concerned when we
tuned it for
were going to be doing the 25 hours at Thunder Hill. They're like, well, we don't know
an extra hour
that long. So,
no, that's true.
I mean, there's literally it's a calculated amount of load and duration of these things.
But most of the time when someone's at the drag strip doing a Hail Mary tune, they're just probably going to just blow up their motor.
It's the hope and pray tune.
Yeah.
We don't do it. I mean, long story short, for that one-liner question,
we could under certain situations. Like I said, I've definitely done it when we've been at the track, and it's like I don't care if we blow up the motor.
Yeah, no, we get customers asking hey, can I get a file with more timing and whatnot? It's not that simple. We'll say what do your logs look like? Send us data. We won't ever make just a global here, go try this file without a large amount of data to inform that decision.
I'll also say Nate's algorithms don't really allow him to do a Hail Mary tune. It just does not compute. What are your thoughts on Dragy Times versus official drag strip? It seems odd the B9 community uses Dragy, though the B8 community goes to the drag strip.
It is really funny the different dynamics the groups fall into.
Right, there's these cultures.
Drag racing wasn't really that much on our radar until the B8 stuff came along. Then those guys really wanted to get to the drag strip, because it was probably one of the first really capable Audis.
Well, yeah, where you don't just blow your clutch.
Yeah,
do one pull. I don't think.
But I mean, from a
you don't need to choose.
No, I mean the Dragy's proven to be a very reliable, very close measurement. Now, the one thing that you will often see on Dragy stuff, and it's particularly the really fast runs, is people will wait until very optimal DAs, so density altitude numbers. So cold 4 a.m. pulls. Just to really get those numbers.
And people do that for drag racing too.
Well, yeah, ideally, but you don't have any control over it.
Yeah, so but the fastest times drag racing all come out in the winter.
Yeah, and it's just the Dragy gives lots of people more of a ability to hit those cold, optimal DAs.
I think there's an even bigger variable that most people don't take into account is Dragys are almost always on the street, and drag racing is almost always at a drag strip, right?
Yep.
And you have very different surfaces.
Yep.
Drag strips are prepared surfaces. I don't know if you've ever walked down a drag strip, but your shoes will literally go whoosh, whoosh, whoosh on a properly prepared launch box of a drag strip. Now on the street, that's not the case, and you have rough pavement. So that's as big of a factor as any. But I think the Dragy is a very precise device. I don't know if any of you guys know what G-Tech Pros are. That was popular when I was younger, and that was one of the first GPS accelerometer based. No one here knows what a G-Tech Pro is. Jesus, are you kidding?
I don't think it was.
Yeah, I said 4th of
That's
July was
insane.
a war zone. He's like, oh,
how do you guys not know what G-Tech Pro is? Oh my god, you should Google it. Maybe there's a TikTok about it or something.
And they may not even know what scramble boost mode was on a number of boost controllers back in the day.
Right. So the G-Tech Pro was surprisingly accurate, but I think the Dragy is a whole nother level.
And then there was Racebox stuff and some other
pre-Dragy
stuff.
Those were 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Dragy's taken over for sure. I guess use G-Tech Pro as a cautionary tale, but of what can happen. So yeah, I think it's good to do both. I think if anyone says that a Dragy time is as good as a drag strip, you got to call BS because they're not the same thing.
The drag strip is prepped in a completely different way.
Yeah.
You're not going to, unless you're pouring tons of, traction compound on your commute.
And you have, quarter inch of rubber above.
Yeah, and then everything laid down on top of that, right? I mean,
I would say, I'm sure this has been done. Has anyone gone to the drag strip with a Dragy and directly compared their Dragy times to the ellipse times? It's got to be really close.
Yeah. And we run a Dragy when we do our quarter mile runs almost all the time, and they're really close.
Yeah.
It's never exactly the same, but they're very close.
8VS3 E85 Stage 2 tunes. Coming, we are we have a Golf R, and we will be doing all those tunes on that car.
Yep.
So we will be working on those over the next few months, with a bevy of turbo upgrade options, including some EQT options, and a KO4 for the GTI. IS30. I always say KO.
Yeah.
They mean the same thing.
turbo,
Yeah.
or bigger OEM turbo.
The IS38. For like 20 years, the bigger turbo was called a KO4. So
Always, yeah.
I don't know why Audi had to fuck that up. But.
The question is upset we are not answering their question.
Which one?
I have hot.
The
Oh,
TTS.
has that been there for a while? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Is there a we're getting to all of them.
Yeah, we're trying.
Is there a performance benefit to adding your turbo inlet to my 8S TTS 2.0 with your X34 intake? Yes, I believe there is. There's been quite a bit of flow testing, independent flow testing that's been done. Our turbo inlet favored very well in those tests. I can't really say how much, but the stock piece is very small and restrictive, and combined with the intake, you'll definitely be increasing the CFM, through that system into the turbo. And turbos are very sensitive.
Yeah, it's
to
all
any
about,
shrouding on the inlet.
Yeah, and it's all about reducing that pressure drop for the turbo.
Yeah.
So your turbo, the ECU is going to request a certain amount of boost, and the turbo is going to do what it can to hit that. If you restrict the inlet of that turbo in any way, it's going to have to spin faster, and it's going to be making more heat to do that. So it's a trickier one to quantify because it's not always like on a first dyno pull you're really going to notice it, but it's going to be adding heat and reducing efficiency. Every time it's got to spool up, and that can translate to warmer intake temps and quicker to heat soak intercooler, and so it's just one of those things in the chain where the more efficient you can make that, it's always going to be an improvement.
Yeah. Imagine if you're running and you have a 1 mile an hour headwind, you can keep up your pace as if there was no wind. You're just going to have to work that much harder to overcome it. And so the same thing with inlet restrictions. How does your B9 A4 strut race change driving dynamics?
Read the crosswind.
We've had customers tell us that it improved the crosswinds performance. That wasn't a feature that we expected to hear about, but it's actually come up more than once. We're not saying we don't know if we could validate that, but what it does is it stiffens up the structure between your front struts, and so when you drive and you go around a corner, you apply load to the outside tire that has the most traction. And so if that loads up and that strut tower flexes or moves at all, then it's going to change your alignment settings. And it's going to change the way your suspension functions on across the whole front suspension. So by stiffening that up, which our solid billet pieces are much stiffer than the thin aluminum tubes that Audi uses from the factory. I believe they're aluminum tubes.
There's not even anything on the B8. Or is this a B8 or B9? I'm sorry.
B9.
Oh, I'm sorry.
B9.
Yes. B9, yeah. It's a tube with a little squished flat.
I think when you'll notice it the most is like if you're going up a driveway and you get a lot of compression on one side or the other.
Corkscrew.
Yeah. Anytime there's a lot of heavy load on the suspension, you'll notice it. I'm not gonna say it's as noticeable as saying other sway bars or springs or something.
Right, yeah, a fully active suspension component, you're gonna obviously notice a lot.
Yeah.
A lot more in every situation.
Yeah. But it also looks really nice when you pop your engine compartments, and you have that with the intake and some of our carbon covers. And it just kind of makes the look, but there is a functional reason to substantive change too. It is much stiffer, so there's only so much you can get from the strut tie bar, but the improvements are there. So we get a lot of great feedback on it. A lot of people say that the car steers more precisely, and that they just like the way the car drives when they're in the corner. They feel like it's more controllable. So that's the feedback we've gotten, and it is one of our most popular products. We sell a lot of those. Someone's asking about this carbon. So these are our brand new B8 engine cover carbon cover pieces. Where's the other piece? Oh. So the kit, and this, is this live on our site?
No.
Okay. This will be live on our site in the next day or two, and it comes with these two pieces. We feature real 3M VHB automotive adhesive tape on here, so you want to clean your factory covers really well, and these stick on there. The good thing about the way we design these is even with no tape, these covers really aren't going to go anywhere because they really have positive engagement with the stock covers. So a lot of times we'll just set them on there and then drive the car for a few days just to see if they go anywhere, and they never do when we design them this way. Now, the other ones that just sit on top, yeah, those are just relying on the tape, but this gives you both. But the tape holds really well if you clean it well. The surface prep is the key there.
Yeah, if you get a bunch of oil and stuff, no tape's ever going to stick.
Right. So, and, just a cool little piece to add. It goes over your factory covers, so that allows us to minimize the cost and complexity of making these, so we can offer them at a good price. And we have a whole line of products like this. So it adds like 200 horsepower.
Each piece.
Yeah, so 400 total.
Just imagine, like, this is a sticker essentially, but it's carbon fiber.
Right, it's even better. Yeah. Dyno Figures for Stage 2 Plus on 91 octane for B8 S4.
Yeah, we're working on getting those published.
So yeah. We had some setbacks with our in-house car.
Yep.
We had some. I guess we could talk about it.
We actually should, yeah. I've been meaning to talk about it on here.
Yeah, this is actually a surprising issue. So
we've seen it now on multiple.
Our in-house car had like 100,000 miles of really hard tuning and engineering, ECU calibration work on it. So we decided to put in a new motor. We just got another used motor and we put it in. Unfortunately, we didn't change the injectors.
Right.
And after driving this quote unquote new low mileage motor for a little bit, we basically lost compression in a couple of the cylinders.
Yep.
And pulled the injectors out.
It was just one.
Just one.
Just
okay.
one was an issue.
Pulled the injectors out, sent them out to be tested, and one of them had less than 10% flow.
Oh yeah,
it was basically
less than 5% flow.
Yeah.
It's essentially a fully clogged injector on one of the cylinders that obviously degraded over time. It wasn't that way from the start when we first put the motor in. But yeah, we were down. I mean, normally on this flow bench, it was at like 43 psi, so like a normal injector rate. The injector should be flowing around 200 cc.
Yeah.
The injector on cylinder 2 in that motor was flowing 14. So it was.
So a cautionary tale.
Yep.
You got to check your high pressure injectors.
Yep.
And we should have done this when the motor was swapped out. There was some confusion and it didn't get done. So that kind of set us back a couple months, and so we should have that back up and running. But once that car is running, we will finalize a few of these things.
But yeah, and we've seen this honestly on some other customer motors where we've sent injectors out to get tested, and it's each set we've sent out has come back with some pretty variable flow rates across the injectors. So I think it's getting to a point where it's kind of one of those maintenance things that we're going to have to start recommending. Is honestly like every year or two or a couple of years, just send your injectors out, get them cleaned up. It's going to be worthwhile to you.
Mm-hmm. Someone's asked. We got 6 minutes. Help me understand how your brake rotors compare to new speeds. Very similar price point. I honestly don't know anything about new speed stuff. If you want to compare us to anything, they're basically Girodisc style rotors. I don't know
but it's not even. I mean, it's all our.
New speed does offer the same 50 foot in the rear. So.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what they're comparing.
Unfortunately, I don't know anything about the new speed stuff, so I can tell you ours have been tested and engineered here extensively.
Yeah, it's really tough when people ask these questions. Like we don't sit here and like exhaustively test competitor products.
We could talk just by stuff we see online, but we generally don't spend too much time looking at other people's products. Obviously, we do sometimes when
I mean,
there's
yeah, if there's a market,
Yeah.
I honestly didn't even know New Speed had that.
Yeah,
yet, so.
I didn't even know. What differentiates your B8 3.0T heat exchanger with a competitor's option? Ours, I believe, is the only billet aluminum end tank option on the market.
Yeah, it's got a really robust mounting system, but it also is more than that. It lets you, it lets us reconfigure it for a number of different options.
Yeah.
And different layouts.
You
You
can
can do
do
single pass, dual pass. So that in and of itself is kind of unique.
Just a really good quality.
It's got a much higher flowing inlets than some of the ones we've seen on the market. So, I mean, overall, it's a very solid, well-constructed heat exchanger.
Yeah, there's definitely some cheaper options. I don't know how they perform. Obviously, there's a number of options on the market. Ours is very reasonably priced for what you get. It's a really high quality, very well tested piece. But yeah, but again, I think our choice to go with billet to allow the configurability is pretty unique.
Pops and bangs.
Pops and bangs.
And or
rev limiter removed?
No, we don't remove rev limiters.
We will raise it to the appropriate.
If you're saying the neutral, that will probably come along when we do the full-blown TCU tune. That's generally a TCU request at stop as well. So.
When should we expect a Stage 2 TCU tune for the B9 platform? Definitely in the next few months.
Yeah.
And so we are planning on releasing our Stage 2 B9 S4, SQ5, and variants tune pretty soon. So if you're interested in Stage 2 and you don't have our Stage 1, I recommend jumping in to get our Stage 1.
Yeah, it won't be any price difference for you. We offer just the difference, the cost difference in the calibration.
So you'll just pay the difference between Stage 1 and Stage 2. So if it's whatever, $100 or $200, you'll just pay that difference. Oh yeah, and this is our last day of the sale for our Stage 1. So get the Stage 1 now, and then pick up the Stage 2 later. Yeah.
And that's a bundle with the TCU, And there's a guy saying he wants to switch his tune from Eurodyne. We do offer competitor switching.
Yep. So shoot an email to tuning, contact at 034motorsport.com. We'll be happy to work with you. We do offer a program for that. When do you suspect B8.5 2.0T tuning to be released, ECU and TCU? We will release B8 first, right?
Sorry, I was reading another question.
B8.5 2.0T.
Oh, B8, yeah. So B8 will be first. It will be ECU and TCU offered. That's pretty imminent right now. We're wrapping up a couple of things on it.
It's mostly done from the
engineering. B8 and a half, probably be another month or two out. Till that's wrapped up.
Yep. S4.0T update. The car is together.
Yep. Getting some of the bracketry wrapped up for the radiator and the front core support area.
And we're just wiring it up, and Nate will be getting it running soon with his magic.
Yep. There's a couple of firewall mods we're going to do now for to fit the OEM.
Barely.
Exhaust, but
we just have to
simple.
bend one piece of sheet metal up a little bit, and then we can run the factory cats. And we are planning on having this car at SEMA if you're able to go.
Yep.
Our goal is to debut it there. So, and it'll be a kind of an OEM plus realization of that project. So, S4 D4 S8 support, not really.
I mean, that's gonna it's C7 RS7. So once we get around to that,
once we release our RS7.
And that's any of these platforms where we're able to combine multiple chassis, we will.
As far as C7 tuning, we don't have a release date, although we had a meeting this week and we were talking about it. A lot of that will be related on getting S4.0T project up and running, which will also be a tuning bed for all of our 4.0T tuning moving forward.
Yeah.
So hopefully maybe this year sometime, but if you guys have been watching this whole thing, you see all the different applications
we're working on
and products.
It's just, again, resources at hand. So we're already looking at adding more, or we are adding more tuning facilities here.
We are. We have big plans for next year. Continuing to expand our engineering capabilities.
Trust me, we want to do all of it.
We do
right away.
Yeah. So All right. Well, I think that's about
just.
that's about an hour. So I think we're gonna get shut off.
Yep.
But thanks again for joining us, and have a great rest of your week. And I think we're planning on seeing you guys again next week.
We'll say Monday.
Say Monday, but it can always change. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Keep
All
on,
right.
keep on top of it.
Cheers.
Yeah.